Welcome back. Welcome to our second classification of plants. Welcome to our second video on classification of plants. In this video, we're going to be studying plants based on their habitats. We're going to classify plants based on habitat. We are going to classify plants based on their mode of nutrition. How do they feed? Where do they live? We're going to classify plants based on this. And also look at our objectives here. We are going to classify plants based on habitat. And in the end, students should be able to explain the life cycle of moss as part of our revision of SS1 classification of plants. Now, we're going to look at classification of plants based on habitat, like I said. Habitat being living home of an organism, a living home, not a house, a living home of an organism. Remember when we studied biology, we were talking about the study of living organisms, which is plants and animals. The first group of plants we're going to be looking at here is xerophytes. Xerophytes, this is coming from habitat. Xerophytes are plants that live and survive in the desert. Such plants, they have sunken stomata, they reduce their leaf into a spine, they have a lot of properties that make them do so. Desert plants, or we call them CAM plants, C-A-M plants. Why do we also call them CAM plants? CAM means classicin acid metabolism. Examples of this plant is cactus. This plant choose the classicin acid metabolism method for carrying out their photosynthesis, meaning that they open their stomata at night. That's why we call them CAM plants. Another example is acacia, but it is important to note that cactus is the predominant plant in the desert, as tested by JAMB last year. The predominant plant in the desert is cactus. Another example is opuntia, or we call it Opuntia delaney. A lot of these plants are desert plants. Another example is Bryophyllum pinnatum. This plant is also called resurrection plant. Second group of plants we're going to be studying on this video is called terrestrial plants. Of course, in types of habitats, we have different habitats like aquatic habitat, terrestrial habitat, desert, etc. Terrestrial plants are common land plants. From habitat knowledge, we know that terrestrial is land. So plants that live and survive on land are called terrestrial plants. Most plants we know or we hear of or we come across or we are familiar with are all terrestrial plants. Examples of such plants will have Awolowo weed, or we call it Siam or Awolowo weed. This one is found in areas like Lagos, Abuja, Kaduna, road from Kaduna to Abuja. You will see this plant. Pawpaw. Pawpaw is an example of a terrestrial plant. Most plants we know of or we hear of or we see every day, they are land plants. All right. Even the plants in the school environment, they are all land plants. This third group of plants we are going to be looking at here are aquatic plants. It is worthy of note that plants that live in a place with adequate amount of water are called hydrophytes. But plants that live in a place with moderate amount of water are called mesophytes. All of them are generally called aquatic plants because they live in water areas. Example is Rhizophora racemosa, red mangrove. It's also important to note that these plants, such as Avicena we are seeing here now, they have breeding roots. Breeding roots are also called nematophore roots. All right. Breeding root is buoyancy in water, etc. Another class of plants we are going to classify based on nutrition. We are going to classify plants based on nutrition. Of course, we know in biology, nutrition is the mode of feeding where we have autotrophic and heterotrophic mode. All right. So here we're going to be looking at the heterotrophic plant. Of course, when we talk about autotrophic, we talk about plants that carry out photosynthesis. A lot of plants do that, green plants. But there are some other plants that are heterotrophic in feeding. Example of such plants are parasitic plants, because parasitic mode of feeding is also an example of heterotrophic mode. Organisms that cannot manufacture their own food, but they benefit from another organism. Parasites live in or on another organism, obtain food and shelter from them. So parasitic plants live on another plant, obtain food and shelter from that plant, while that plant suffers harm or may even die in the process. Examples of parasitic plants will have Rafflesia. Like I said, these plants, they live and obtain their shelter. As you can see, Rafflesia hanging around. obtaining food and shelter from that plant, while that plant may even die in the process. Another example is Mistletoe. All of them live and obtain their food and shelter from another plant. The third example of plants we have there is dodder plants. All these plants are parasitic. They parasitize other plants. They live and obtain their food from another plant. Another class of plants we need to study here is carnivorous plants. Now, carnivorous plants, it is worthy of note that carnivorous plants are plants that kill and digest insects in order to obtain nitrogen. In other words, these plants live in area that is deficit of nitrogen. Therefore, they kill and digest insects to get nitrogen. Examples of such plants, we have the venom fly trap. All these plants, they kill and digest insects to obtain nitrogen. Example is sundew. Sundew is a good example. As you can see, sundew leaf have sensitive hairs. When an insect comes in contact with these sensitive hairs, the leaf closes up and enzymes will be secreted to digest this insect. Same with venom fly trap. Venom fly trap also does that. Other examples we have bladderwort, we have water fly trap, we have pitcher plant or nepenthes. Pitcher plant, or we call it nepenthes, this plant is given the name pitcher, the name originating from Roman Empire during olden days time. When the Roman empires, they use the pitcher cup to fetch water. The leaf of this plant looks like that pitcher. That is why it is called pitcher plant. All right. When an insect falls inside this cup, the lid closes up and the insect will be secreted to digest insect to obtain nitrogen. Also, remember we're going to be discussing the life cycle of moss in this video, although the explanation will be given in the next video down below. All right. We're discussing the life cycle of moss as a part of our revision of classification of plants in SS1. All right. See you in the next video. Bye.